organization tonight or during the day, depending which time zone we are speaking from. It is my enormous pleasure to see all faces of our participants and guests today or tonight. And just I will give a little background about what we are doing and why we are doing it. Just to note also that we are waiting for also our colleague Frederique Lecomte from Belgium to join us as well, because she has some problems with internet. So what we at DACH Theatre are doing is the project which name is Rebuilding Theatre Towards New Future. Idea was to create a situation that is also some kind of response to, of course, global pandemic and the fact that we cannot perform live as much as we would like to, and especially we cannot tour. I mean, still in Serbia, and I'm speaking from Belgrade, Serbia. Still in Serbia, we can go to theater with all measures and so on. It might change. But generally speaking, DACH Theatre is a theater that tours a lot, and we concluded that probably we shall not going to tour for a while. So idea was, what can we do and how can we actually translate our theater language into some other language? And so idea was to create the language of theater into the language of film. And this is idea that was started by Jadranka, Ivana, and myself, that we developed into the whole project. And the program that is the part of this project, Connections, is actually designed to connect, as the name says, the artists and experts from all around the world to talk about their work and practice, and to really connect and exchange. So in this time when we feel very disconnected and that we are physically very often not together, it was very important to us to be able to create the situation where we are going to connect and to talk around the topics that we are working with. We at DACH Theatre, through our performances right now, work with several topics, and one of very important topics we are working with is the children's rights and what theater could do in relation to children's rights and working with children and so on. And so this is the topic of tonight's connection, theater and children's rights, and invited participants, guests, are really artists and experts in the field that I just mentioned. So it's my enormous pleasure to introduce the participants of tonight. So first, Joanna Sherman from US, from New York, and she's artistic director of the known and famous, beautiful Bond Street Theatre. And they were directing, and she was directing globally pieces that deal with the social justice and positive transformation of theater, and working with the different communities in post-conflict zones, and working specifically a lot in places and countries like Afghanistan and Malaysia, Egypt, and Myanmar, and so on. She's also a frequent speaker for social justice and arts and the power of arts, and incredible artist and, of course, human being. So hello, Joanna, and it's really the pleasure to introduce you. We are having with us Dijana Kržanić Tepavac, so coming, right now being in Belgrade as well, our colleague from Belgrade, Serbia. And she is an actress and drama pedagogue and president of the executive board of ASSITEJ Serbia. ASSITEJ is International Association of Theatre for Children and Young People. Hello, Frederique. Nice to have you back with us. Dijana is also founder of the group Iskorak, which means, I believe, step out in English, and that deals with theater and arts with and for young people, but she will speak more about that. So it's my pleasure. We started an introduction, Frederique, so we are very happy that you're with us. And let's hope that the goddess of technology will be nice to us tonight and that everything will be fine with your connection. And so Frederique Lecomte, coming from Belgium, from Brussels right now, and she's the founder and main facilitator of Theatre and Reconciliation Method. She's a sociologist and also writer and a stage director, trainer, expert, working with communities, working with different communities, creating with them and for them shows and projects. And I was specifically fascinated with her work with the children and specifically child soldiers in Africa. And so Frederique will talk about that work more. And then, of course, it's my big pleasure to introduce Eveline Costa from Brazil. And right now she's our guest in Belgrade. So we are very happy to have her in these times when we cannot be together. Eveline was brave enough to sit in the plane and to fly to Serbia. Eveline is the founder of Sequencia Filmes and Cenicas. I hope I pronounce it well. And which, in addition to film, has been developing also theater projects. She's an audiovisual director, dramaturg, and producer. She was also the production director and then the director of incredible festival of the women theater. It is the Multicidade in Rio that presents the work of women around the globe. And currently she's working on the incredible project about the trafficking of women, but also together with Jadranka Anđelić, they were working with children specifically in favelas in very poor parts of Rio. So we are going to hear about that work. And so now I will introduce also Jadranka Anđelić, that has here, as myself and Ivana, two hats, because she's living and working between Brazil and Serbia. Right now also being in Belgrade. And she's co-founder of DAH Theatre and also the main collaborator of Sequencia Filmes and Cenicas. She's a theater director that worked internationally and nationally, created many projects, and also artistic director of the festival Multicidade in Rio de Janeiro, where which presents the work of women around the globe. And of course, Ivana Milenović Popović, an actress and marketing director of DAH Theatre, the core member of DAH Theatre, creating and many projects, being in the team that just organized and being co-creator together with myself of the concept of the festival Arts and Human Rights. And so Ivana, Jadranka, and myself, coming also from DAH, are also, all three of us are having like two hats, because we are also like the hosts of tonight's event, but at the same time, we are artists that will speak about our work as well. So I would like to invite Joanna to talk to us and present her work.
Thank you very much. I'm going to start my PowerPoint as I talk, but I would just like to say thank you for your invitation, and let's see if we can get this there. Yes. So yes, we've been working for social justice for a long time. We've been working in areas of conflict since 1984. I guess that was working in Palestine. And but we were always a political theater company, always socially oriented, and focusing on women and youth and children. And I think now we're working very much also with refugees. Let me see if I can get that. Yes, refugees. And when working with refugees, of course, we're very often working with children and, of course, women. One thing very important is that we always connect with partners on the ground. We always work peer-to-peer in each location with our partners on the ground. And here, this was Myanmar, and this is our stage here, this tarpaulin, getting ready for working in this squatter settlement. Yeah, the reason why we're working with peer-to-peer with people is that we're developing plays that are about what they want to talk about. And that's really the focus of our work. Empowering people as they need to speak out about whatever it is that's really conflicting them. So I'm going to focus on Afghanistan and whatever it is that's really. Here our partner was Exile Theatre, and here they are performing In the Rubble. They were already a theater company, and we found them by working in the refugee camps in Pakistan. And many of the best artists had escaped to the refugee camps in Pakistan, where they called themselves Exile Theatre. So we said, well, when we go back to Afghanistan right after the American bombing, let's meet in Afghanistan and start working together, which is exactly what we did. And this is the environment that we met. This is the former Kabul University, and that's where we lived. At Kabul University while we worked with Exile Theatre. And with Exile Theatre, we created 2 shows. One funny show, which we weren't sure, we took to the very rural areas of Afghanistan where really people had never seen theater before in their life. And we weren't sure whether they were going to love us or kill us because, we wanted to find out, do the same things make children laugh everywhere in the world? Is that something that's really, truly universal? And I thought this was a pretty good test. And you know what? They didn't kill us. They did love us. And I am convinced that the same things make kids laugh everywhere. If you squirt water out of your mouth, if you fall down, if you have a chase scene, this will make children laugh. We also created a more serious show at the same time about the puppet government that was just set up, the Karzai government. So this was kind of a very physically manifested, non-language, no language used at all in either of these shows, actually. That was kind of a depiction of the rise of this kind of puppet government and how people felt about it. This was performed at Habibia High School, which you can see that there's no facade there anymore. It was quite damaged. We worked with Exile Theatre for many, many years after that. And, after strict Taliban rule, which forbade all music, all dance, theater, art, everything, we found that little theater groups were springing up all over the place. And we thought that was amazing because really people had not seen theater, and certainly young people had never seen theater or television. And so the fact that this was springing up it proves that intrinsically people need to speak out. They need to tell their stories. This is how people solve their problems, by telling their stories. We couldn't help but notice that there were no women in the shows, that it was men, and men played the parts of women, and they did not do a very good job of playing the part of a woman. They kind of minced around the stage, and there was a lot of kind of crying and squealing and laughing, and it was sort of pathetic. So we worked a lot with the men on body language. If you're going to portray a woman, how do you portray a woman? How does a woman walk? How does a woman hold herself? Does she really cry all the time, etc.? And we focused a lot on women and young women to give them a public voice. We were convinced that women should have a public voice. So one of our accomplishments was forming 6 all women's theater companies. And 4 of these women's companies are still in existence and still working, although I'm sure with the pandemic, they're probably not doing much. But they still are active. And this exercise here, calling your name over the mountain, was really a good first start, because in Afghanistan, a woman's name is not usually mentioned. You wouldn't ask about your wife or your children, your girl children. So they shout out their name as though they're yelling it all over the mountain. And then the whole group echoes their name. And it's very verifying. And each one stands in front of the group and calls their name, and the whole group echoes back. They said that it was the first time they heard their name mentioned out loud, and they felt it was really, yes, I am Rubina, I am Marcia, I am me. It was very, very empowering start. Now, just to speak a little bit about the process we use, because these are people that have never done theater or seen theater. And we start with this exercise called the problem tree, which maybe you all use, I don't know. But you make a picture of a tree, a very simple outline of a tree. And you have the leaves and the trunk and the roots. And you start with the leaves, and people call out just the very daily problems that irk them. I can't get on the bus. I have to be with a man. I can't leave the house. My brother gets to do this. I don't get to do that. You know, this kind of daily problems. Then we move to the trunk of the tree. And the trunk of the tree are the systems that hold those problems in place. What is the traditional system? What is the education system? What's the religious system? The governmental system? And they name these things. Then we move to the roots. And I think this is where the interesting conversations come about, because why do you have this religion? Why do you have this government? Why do you have this educational system? So they really start to talk about why they have these traditions. Why do you have that tradition? Where did that come from? And then they start to get a whole picture about the framework of their whole society and how they might really dig into it to make some changes. Next, we have them do very simple exercise, just image theater, where they create a still image of a problem in 3 simple images. One is the problem. The second image would be what happens if that problem continues. And then the third one would be a potential solution. So it's like a really mini play with the conflict and a solution. But then, and even the most shy can create a still image. Then we do it in 5 scenes. What's the problem? How do you get to that? What happened before it got to be that a really critical situation? And then how do you get to a solution? And once you have 5 still images, you actually do have a play. Then we start to add character, and you start to add, what do you say, your dialogue, very simple dialogue, and then character formation. And by the end, they have a play. And it starts very simple, but they get better and better and better as they perform the play. And once they get in front of an audience and they see the impact of what they've done, and they realize that everyone's listening to them. Maybe it's the first time in their life that people were actually listening to them. They're shocked, because sometimes they're performing for women that are much older than they are. And they say, well, gee, they were listening to me. And I said, yes, because you're saying something very important that they need to hear. So once they get that power inside them, then they're forever changed. And you know what? They don't want to get off the stage at that point. They really don't want to. They don't want to leave. Then they're really empowered. They may not be actors in their life. I mean, it's by the time they're 19, 20 years old, they really do have to get married and have children right away. It's the way it is, and it's going to be that way for a long time. Although people are making changes slowly, but slowly. Things are changing, and people are getting married a little bit later. But even if they don't become actors in their life, it's really fine, because just the idea of getting up and having a voice and having that experience of power changes them forever. And they even performed in women's homes. They went from house to house. This was the election project. We did shows about, yes, women can vote, and yes, you should vote, and what is voting, and how do I do it? And so they went to women's homes and gathered the women from the neighborhood and did the show. And the women were so delighted to have a show right in their house, right in their courtyard, that they made them do it over and over again. Sometimes they did the show 2 and 3 times with little tea breaks in between, but they were just so happy to see a show. So it was very, very delightful, really. The women that we gathered for our shows, sometimes we had to do a little bit of convincing to the parents, of course, to the religious leaders in the neighborhood. You don't just come in and do this. You have to really meet with the local government and the religious leaders and the elders of the community to tell them what it is you're doing, to show them that you're not doing something that's really un-Islamic or untoward. They're not doing Bollywood dancing. They're not doing anything that's Western, I guess you could say. And the women got very good at in this case, I'm looking at this, playing the male roles. And I have to say the women excelled in the male roles because they really do know how that abusive husband acts and that dismissive policeman or whoever it is that they're portraying. This show is about child marriage. And this show pointed out how women actually are also perpetrators in keeping these harmful traditions going. The show is called The Backbiters, and it's the local gossips kind of keeping these customary practices in place. You know, whispering behind the back, oh, she's going to go to the university. She's going to be sitting next to men. Next thing you know, she's wearing lipstick and there, you know, whatever. So it's, the women are also part of the problem. We performed a lot in the women's prisons and shelters. And we took the show about child marriage to the prisons, and all of the women said, that's why we're here, because of child marriage and forced marriage. That's most of them, that's why they were here. Because the unfair justice system puts women and girls in prison for moral crimes. 99% of them are there for moral crimes. That is running away from an abusive home, running away from a forced marriage. And the testimony in the justice system, the testimony of a woman is still only worth half of a man's to this day. So if you claim rape, you need 2 women to say that you were raped for 1 man to say, no, I did not. This is something we're really working very hard against, but it does exist again to this day. When we ask the women, you know, afterwards we have kind of a post show where women get to step up and take a role in the show, forum theater style. And the women were very happy to jump into the show, even the women in the prison, and speak their mind and talk to the abusive husband and the abusive policeman and really give them what for. This is the juvenile correction center. And, you know, we found with both the women and the girls, sometimes, you know, they want to create plays with us and we work with them on creating their own play. That's what we were there for, to have them create their own storytelling. But we'd start out with theater games, and every day when we showed up, they just wanted to play games. They just wanted to play children's games. I mean, the children's games that we all played when we were little, that's what they wanted to do. And I realized that they missed their childhood. They missed that point of playing games. The boys are out playing, the girls are working. They're gathering fuel, they're washing clothes, they're learning to cook. The girls work, the boys play. So it was a tremendous psychosocial release to have them just be able to play these games. And we were like, fine, if you don't want to do theater, you do theater, don't do theater. But let's just work with what it is that your needs are. Meanwhile, the men's groups, remember the men's groups, they were doing plays about the same issues. Why women can vote, against domestic violence. They were doing plays about the same things. So this was very encouraging that they were willing to do that. So things are changing for sure. This was, you know, tell me if I'm going over time or not. Okay, I'm good with time. Okay. This is another example of how we worked using theater with youth. And this particular project was, it didn't have any actual theater product necessarily. It was a community improvement project. And we gathered youth, 400 youth from 25 provinces, and worked with them on what they wanted to improve about their community. They created a community profile and zeroed in on what they wanted to talk about and what they could actually fix. And in most of the cases, they wanted to fix the situation with trash, picking up the trash. And through the theater training, they learned how to present themselves to public, how to advocate on their own behalf. They had to do their 30-second elevator pitch. Should they run into the governor, they could just get their message out quickly. We did mock TV interviews We did mock TED Talks so they could get their message out in a clear 3 minutes. Just learning how to have decent presentation skills so they could speak on their own behalf to the government. And, you know, through this project, actually, almost 70% of them got jobs because seeing these young people out in the street picking up the trash, and people saw that they were very responsible young people. You're going to hire somebody, you're going to hire one of these guys. They show up every day and they pick up the trash. It also kind of shamed the government into providing the receptacles to clear the trash. And it kind of made sure that the shopkeepers thought twice before just dumping their trash at the end of the day. They thought, oh, these nice young people are out there cleaning up the trash. Maybe I'll put my trash in the receptacles. So it was really very, very effective. This is one of our women leaders, and she went on to go into media, and she was very good, and she's having her interview about her project. And the second most popular project they did was working with the street working children. And they would just set up a tent, a large tent, and just have the kids come for an hour a day to play games, to learn basics, and to do this kind of psychosocial help to get them to feel like they were worthy to go to school. And then they visited the families and said, you know, your child would be better off in school. I know they're out there selling pencils, but you know what? They will make more money for you if they get an education. Then they'll be able to really be part of society and move things along. So that is, that's the end of this slideshow. But the takeaway is that theater is a powerful megaphone for social justice. And these kind of, it can be easily applicable to community improvement projects through theater, just by introducing them to how to advocate on their own behalf, and also introducing them to the idea that theater can be a vehicle. A lot of them did mural painting, just introducing to the idea that you can write a song about your issue, you can write poetry about your issue. There's many ways that the arts can help you manifest and get your social justice issue across.
Thank you very much, Joanna. It was a fascinating presentation, and I'm fully aware that, of course, 15 minutes is so little time to talk about important works that here we are all doing. But I think it's a great start for future liaisons and conversations, and really connecting and thinking and working together. So thank you very much. At the end, we shall, when everyone present, we shall have some questions. But I would just like to give few remarks, because you mentioned that you were working with refugees, and this is what I really appreciated to hear, because recently at our Festival Arts and Human Rights, we had a conference where Professor Milenović was speaking exactly about the term refugee and how basically we replaced it with the term migrant. And migrant is something more safe, not really telling the problem, because the refugee, I mean, we are working with refugees. People who are migrating are basically people that are really escaping and asking for the refuge. So I think this is very important. It stayed in my mind, I mean, all these days. And also I was very moved with this that you said about the exploring the things that can make children laugh all around the world. I think it's wonderful, really. And so many more ideas that you just pointed to, so we can talk a bit later after. So thank you very much.
I've been using the word forced displacement very often, because both migrants and refugees force displacement. And migrants, it tends to sound like it's a little bit more temporary, whereas refugees, it sounds like you're really not going to come back. But yeah, we could talk about that.
Exactly. Thanks a lot. So I will ask now Frederique to turn on her mic, and also Joanna to turn off her mic. And Frederique, please, it's your time. We would like to hear about your work.
Hello, good evening, everybody. I'm a play director, and sometimes I'm working with child soldier in Rwanda, Burundi, and Congo, DRC Congo. I also work with refugees in Belgium, and also refugees sometimes in Africa. With them, I'm doing theater. About first they improvise on thematic they choose. I ask them, what do you want to work with? And they give me disons, little thematic about the way they were kidnapped to go to war, the domestic violence, especially girls, and especially girls who went to war and who was raped massively. And with all those thematic, they make some improvisation. And this is the first part of the work. They improvise about their daily life and the thematic they want to share with me. Sometimes it's very difficult to understand what they mean because it's not my culture, it's not my language. Also, it's always in the mother tongue. They always speak in their mother tongue, in Kinyarwanda, Kirundi, or Swahili. And the first step to try to understand what they mean, it's also very important because they have to explain to me. Sometimes I play the naivety, and to explain what happens in their life. I say, and it's, imagine in DRC Congo right now, there's a war. It's very violent society and very chaotic society. They killed, they raped all the time. It's very, very difficult to perform there, but it's very difficult to live there, not to perform there. And with what they explain to me, what happens in their life, I try to find what I say a punctum. There's a little point that I try to net, to sew, and to make a scene, to make theater. Then the objective is doing theater. Of course, I have different hats on my head. I'm a play director, but also with the NGO I'm working with, sometimes I put the hat of savior. And then it's funny because the NGO, they want to save the world, that. But my work is always the same, is always doing theater. And day after day, I finished to build the performance with little piece of stories of boys, girls. And after I put that, we are performing on a stage, not on a stage, but on a football area or in a village, on a place and so on, in front of a huge audience, about between 300 to sometimes 5,000 people watching the performance. Also, a lot of children, a lot of people. And the difficulties, of course, in a conflict zone is trying not to offense the other part. Otherwise, it could be very dangerous for everybody. Then also one part of the work is how to put people on stage. Then they are agree to perform what they want to perform politically, and also not to understand what happens to their life, because they are young, they were kidnapped to go to war, and they don't know even what happened. Sometimes they were sold to another army, they go to another place to fight people they was before their friend. Of it's completely crazy. That my work is also to understand, to let them understand what happens in their life. They are instrument of violence, of war, but never decide about that. What happens with theater? I only build scenes, And also, of course, it gives a voice to the people, the young people who never speak, who they don't have any voice, especially the girls. For example, of course, when you are performing in front of a very huge audience, you have to scream, even if they have microphones. I show you after some image. But you know, when a woman has to scream what happens to her, or boys has to scream so loudly, then it opens. Then they prove. It opens a testimony about what happens to them, and also I think the compassion about of the audience, because you know, child soldier, they are seen like monsters most of the time. They are, you know, they kill, they rape, there are no limits of violence, and it's very difficult to them to reintegrate their village, because even their parents, they don't want to see them anymore. But when they see the performance, the actors became closer to them. It's like a catharsis, of course. Sometimes it's very cathartic, and sometimes, of course, it's very funny, because those people are suffering so much that I have not the courage to only make something very hard and strong and to denounce the violence and the war. No, there are young people, and we have to have fun, to play games, to laugh a lot, and to laugh also about what happens to the other, and to compare. They compare also the violence they get. I'm going to show you it's in French, sorry, it's a teaser about a movie, a documentary made about my work with child soldier and young girls victim of rapes, and also child soldier. It's in French. I think it's not, you can see the truc. Okay. It's in DRC Congo. On a tendance à penser que les enfants soldats, ce sont des enfants qui sont perdus pour la société, qui sont extrêmement violents, qui n'ont plus de notion de bien, de mal, qui ont perdu leur humanité.
Frederique.
Moi, je vois pas ça du tout. Sorry, I forgot to share.
Yeah, can you start again and share the screen, please?
Share, sorry. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go. Ok. On a tendance à penser que les enfants soldats, ce sont des enfants qui sont perdus pour la société, qui sont extrêmement violents, qui n'ont plus de notion de bien, de mal, qui ont perdu leur humanité. Moi, je vois pas ça du tout. Sina wakunisomesha. Sina kunipa mafunyo. Anakosa wakunisaidia. Wanasimama ya kwamba mie niko chini Kongo. Théâtre et Réconciliation Bukavu le 18 juillet 2013. Je leur demande comment ils sont entrés dans les groupes armés et s'ils ont été enrôlés de force. Le petit dit qu'il a tué quelqu'un et qu'il a été envoyé dans les forces armées. Il pleure. Là, je commets une grave erreur. Un animateur du BVS m'interrompt, me disant qu'il ne faut pas parler de cela. Et malheureusement, je l'écoute.
C'est comme si j'avais abandonné le petit avec son crime. Il aurait absolument fallu en faire une scène. Puisqu'il avait parlé ouvertement, il y a une obligation de ne pas laisser tomber, de théâtraliser, de prendre une distance sur ce qu'il venait de nous raconter. La difficulté, c'est que ce genre de témoignage fait peur. On a envie de se cacher la tête dans le sable. C'est à ce moment qu'il faut réagir, mais on n'a pas toujours le courage, ni la présence d'esprit. Je m'en veux absolument. Ce petit garçon pourrait être mon fils.
Dunia yangu kila mtu ana haki ya kutetelewa. Katika dunia yangu ya mpya kila mtu iko na haki ya kutetewa. Dunia yangu kila mwanadamu ana haki ya kutumika. Dunia yangu kama kusoma tukasoma. Nikaishi kule mpole mkirebere titi nikaishi sana. Nenda pambana vita yangu ya kwanza. Nikanyanganya bunduki 6. Ya kunyanganya bunduki 6. Akanipatia grade kule mkisonda. Haitoshi. Tukaendelea sasa, wakaniandikisha kwa Theatre na nikaona Theatre kabisa inanistahili. Na mpaka hivi mimi niko naona sana za onda jina kundi tu hata mkartie ngile fasi kuna wafundisha.
Voilà. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, this is one of a play a few years ago with child soldier. Last summer or so, I also worked with child soldier. Not the same, of course, because those are are married, and I mixed also Belgian people. I bring with me young actors who work with me in DRC Congo. Perhaps I can show you some photography if I have time.
Yeah, you have.
I can show you. Partager. Voilà. This is the rehearsal place. This is a musician playing Ikembe. I'm working with still 25 years old, 25 years ago. White and those child soldier. It was very. It's very powerful also because they want to share their story, and it really changed their life. Not economically, unfortunately, but in their minds, sometimes they were able to speak louder, to speak to the others, speak to their parents, speak to adults. They try to make some projects alone. They build some other scenes, and sometimes they play the scenes we made year and year after we created. It seems that also when I'm working in prisons, it's a space of freedom. Doing theater is put a safe space of freedom inside the prison and also inside your hands or your head, sorry, and putting a safe space. And also it's important for me, it's to symbolize, not to make some documentary theater, but to put a distance between what they lived and what is on stage. It's a theatralization of their daily life. But not because of this distance between the symbolization of the action of theater and what they lived, it changed your mind, because it's like looking what your life with other binoculars. Then also sometimes, of course, it's therapeutic. It's not the goal, but it's a goal. And it's happened not because I want it. It happens because theater wants it. And theater is the tool, is the stick. When we can grip, then it helps to make all those things. Just doing theater the best as you can. And I have not in my mind reconciliation and therapeutic goal. I have just in my mind doing theater the best as I can, and also open and trying to not betray the what they have to say, to tell us, to tell to the audience. And doing theater, it's very powerful, finally. And I think perhaps it's more powerful than anything, because it engages your body, it engages your mind, it engages your voice, your eyes, it engages everything. Of course, if you write something, it can help also. It's also, but it's not so powerful than theater, especially when we have a performance. For example, I always make a performance, even if it's not possible and I have only one public audience. But I want all the time to have a performance. For me, it's very important, because theater is not only doing things entre nous. Comment est-ce qu'on dit entre nous? I want to the translation to my daughter. Between us. Voilà. Okay. And it works. But it's not because it works. I don't care it works. It's just my job. It's just the way I'm living. It's just putting some pleasure on stage for the audience, for the people, for the young people, and it's a free space of other rules, other rights, other way of thinking. Voilà. It's enough, no?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frederique. Again, very important, amazing presentation. What really I found very precious to talk about that both you and Joanna were talking about coming to communities and letting them finding the topic they wanted to work with. And I think this is so important, to come and really be open for the needs of the community rather than your own artistic need and the topic you want to explore and so on. So I think we should really underline that. And also I just want to say that again, the power and importance of laughter. So again, the similarities between your works and the power of the laughter and the humor that we should always remember. Thank you very much, Frederique. We'll talk more after. So it is my pleasure to invite Dijana Kržanić Tepavac, dear colleague, and it's a pleasure to have you with us, Dijana. So please.
Thank you so much, Dijana, for inviting me to be here and to share these incredible stories, because we know about it, you know, and then again and again and again, when you see it and then you are confronted with it, you are completely shaken. And I congratulate these two wonderful, tremendous ladies. But, you know, I was thinking about the concept of what would I do now, today, and share with you, because this is completely different. It is concerned about the white teenagers in a so-called very good situation in Europe, which is not. And that's the way, because the children all around the world, the circumstances are for each of the child, for them, probably very strong and heavy. It doesn't look like, because it looks like this is a war over there, and there is not power of the woman to talk, but still the gender equality is the question that you can bear with here as well. So at the beginning, I just wanted to say that this is fantastic, why it's true how artists are always feeling, especially in a special way, the world. And the artists observe society using well-trained senses for their reading surrounding and detecting the problems. And when they defined the problem, this is alert again from the very start. They want to act and to do something. And this is what is very powerful in art, in any kind of the theater that we are doing. Doesn't matter, is it in any part of the world? When you find the really trouble, you are going to scream about it and to work about it. And I just want to stress the fact that in the whole very strong trouble, ecological, human or war circumstances that are always causing the trouble, there is always the very first reaction from the artists, from the performing artists at the first place. Like this now, like in the COVID crisis, even though that this is not like, doesn't seem like so strong and for life dreadful, but it is. Okay, so I just want to say also that tomorrow we celebrate the World Children's Day, Rights Day, and this convention is the most widely accepted legal instrument for the protection of human rights. So far, the 196 countries have ratified it. And the convention requires that all the rights be equally respected and enforced. So how then is happening that the child right to the access and all the art, culture and participation in society, in the artistry, in artistic life is never considered or mentioned in annual reports on the occasion of November 20. That's for me the crucial question. Because it's obviously that the capacity of the art, especially performing art, is such a powerful tool to work with all the children around. And instead of the reports on the research about how the state of the children and young people who suffer from the fear and uncertainty in these times and who need comfort and hope, performing arts are capable and willing to give, we will probably see some smiling, tickling faces on the stage tomorrow on some celebration of this, but singing and dancing. But there is no really the way that we show. Is that the way that truly we respect the child and how we understand the pay attention to the right of the child? And this is the question I'm posing for the last 25 years. Why I'm saying this? Because, yes, I've been working with the teenagers in the 90s. And in the circumstances, we had a really dreadful disaster here. Because I briefly recall a very complex time in that 90s. And I was just provoked because I had become just in that time at the beginning of the 90s a mother. And I was convinced that the very first years of the young being life are the most important for the whole future life. I was aware from the very beginning of this decade that it will be the time of the agony. And it was like that. And I was concerned how I would give to my child what I would like to as a mother. So I think the whole mothers around the world are feeling the same. And I'm an artist, I had some skills, I'm a trained artist. I just wanted to find out how this is going to be, that I'm going to work with the childhood in the next 19 years, in the 90s, in 10 years. So I will just say that the disintegration of the country of Yugoslavia brought in the question everything, the human values, and we know about it a lot. And that in that total isolation that started in 1992, we had the generation and generation of the teenagers that have been completely fell out of any system, and the families that have been completely disordered, and the economical and all other situation. So these days we are finding out the very lot of the violence and the primitive and attitude of the even middle-aged people who have been youngsters in that time in the 90s. And this was, I was very worried about what is going on, especially the teenagers. And let me remind you, these days we are having the audience in the theater, in our institutional normal theater, that are coming from the families of the parents that they have been teenagers in that moment when the whole system of the values, of the human values, have been broken down. So what's the most programs and the project initially in the 90s, when there are a lot of artists who have been really reacted in the 90s here in Belgrade and in Serbia on the situation. The most programs have been initially largely supported for the Foreign Foundation deal with the traumatized groups of the children fleeing from war zones and displaced families. And I noticed that we have to work with the teenagers. So what I have done is that I have founded and launched in 1996 the studio for the performing arts called Step Out. And I would also like to share some video because I think this is the best way to share with you what I have been working in these 15 years of working with teenagers. And now, where is it? Okay, here. So, Performing Arts and Visual Arts Studio Step Out was launched with the aim of encouraging the teenagers to explore understanding better and accepting of the world around them, and provide support to youngsters to build a positive attitude and creative approach to the life, and develop a culture for communication and cooperation. The idea that was healthy upbringing, which respect the child personality from the early age, and provides emotional support and points to a variety of possibilities, creates in an interested and fulfilled individual who contributes to building this and his community and the well-being of the society. I'm sorry. So the teenagers I've been working with, I was addressing to them generally are seen as the most inconvenient to work with as an audience in the theater, and they are unpredictable and demanding. But for me, working with the teenagers is extremely provocative. It required my great attentiveness and commitment. The topic of peer violence was noticeable, seemingly out of the nowhere, and examples of bullying increased, which visibly disturbed the teenage population, but also parents and teachers. Therefore, I worked on the topic of mutual relation in particular. We studied how to read movements in a group, how to mutual relation in a group work, how the group treats an individual, how an individual functions within a group, or how an individual takes the initiative and leads the group. That was a kind of understanding what is the behavior in the school and outside of the school as well. Then through this work that I used to put some hints, like in any material that I would brought to them, and let them to come out the stories that they would build up on. In one moment, I have worked with one poem that was a well-known Serbian poet, Dragan Lukic, probably you would know from Belgrade and Serbia. And we used the text of Arthur, who was among the first in Serbian children's poetry to talk about growing up in city. And it was a strange point to explore the attitude of the modern generation towards in the idealized image of the childhood that the poet Lukic noted with a boyish enthusiasm and optimism, which was inadequate to what it was going on in these 90s. And that was a really incredible how these the reaction of the 90s teenagers have been on this idealistic way of the progress in the 70s. And let me remind you, the 70s have been a completely different to the approach to the children. We believed in the individuality. Then from this point, we used to work on the performances, because through the years they used to spend in this studio, they have gradually worked on the lot of materials that suddenly come to a point that they become a performance. It was not the point that we wanted to make the performances, but through the years, they have been working on themselves, and then suddenly we had such a material, fantastic material, that we could go in the public. And through that, being them in front of the audience, they could find really the answers of what was going on with them through the growing up. The Stolen Prince, the fairy tale that we created and premiered in the early 2004, it was performed by the Teenagers for Peers, and it was based on the Asian story from Forgotten Kingdom, where all kings to be born, and then king found the twins, and girl and boy, and he orders the baby girl to be killed, but two children from the court, they could not bear with this cruelty, so decided to save the baby girl, but by mistake they put the baby boy in a boat and let him down to the river. This plot was absolutely ideal to raise the gender issue among the teenagers in the group through the 1.5 years we have working on, and discuss gender equality among the teenagers. And later on, this was one fantastic, actually, a provocative performance to make really a lot of bigger project that was aiming to work with the children who have seen the and to make the workshops to work before and after the performance with them in the same issues. And we started to do that. But the problem is when we have the system which is not recognizing and funding this kind of the workshops and work tied with the scholars, with the teachers who are bringing the children in the theater. And this is something that is really having like a problem for ages in our country and worldwide, I would say. And we can discuss about it later, because it's very important that the decision makers understand how we can work on our society, working with the teenagers right from this very stage. So that was really interesting how the children have been very aware of what is going on. And we have switched the roles, changing the roles of the gender in the play as well. So another performance that also came out from the work in about 1.5 hours, it was the aim was to provoke the major teenagers and adults with sending a strong message of the gender, race, and class differences. That was the one. You Are Not Alone. The performance questioned the secret games hidden from the adult eyes, maybe forbidden, or like playing with the matches and fire, or stay hidden in the closet or under the table listening adults talks about what is not for the young. We examined the first memories of the awareness of the big world and consciousness of self-being, the first silent temptations of the heart, the first encounters with the issues of appearance and disappearance. This is something that actually deals with the issue that are sensitive issues, like death, like departures, like going out, like all, because it was definitely that the children needed, as you said already now, that they needed the joy, they needed support, they needed the hope, they needed somebody who is going to listen to them and ask them, what is going on with you? What is your problem? And when they start to open, this is tremendous what is coming out. And we are learning from them what is the wrong in our situation, in our society. That's the point as well. So this was based, later on we find the wonderful novel, The Peach Leaves, and by the characters like animals and metaphors it was really fantastic to develop the story about the very first encounters with the life patterns that they are going to be ready after the teenage to go in the big world. And we have worked a lot with the performances of the other kind. Like, for example, once we have made a performance about monument for the citizen X who have been lost. So we mentioned some people that are not enough recognized as really heroes in our time. And also, one performance particularly was very interesting, and that was Waiting for Visa. In 2008, I received an invitation to take a part in the first Vienna Extra Festival in Vienna with the studio. And children have been asked to choose for themselves how they would present what are the most interesting topics in their environment, in their country that they would like to talk about and which is important for them. So as we used to work like that, usually, my team chose the theme or topic of the visas, because we have been under the Schengen, this isolation. Then they talk about the close down, inability to see and experience the world, that there is already a significant present in their lives to the virtual networks, and they are on the touch there, but they could not go out the border to really explore the world. So it was like a really red cloth in the front of them, in their eyes. And there is a lot of frustration from that time. This is why I'm saying that it was very important to work with the children here. And and at the end of the year, visas were abolished, but they diligently built the show, spoke with a mild irony about the exhausting long lines in the front of the embassies. And each told his own story, why they wanted to leave the country and what to do they would expect somewhere when they go out sometime. But some of them didn't get the visa. And this is really fantastic. And this is why I choose this play, because this was the last scene. The last scene was that the most of them have been not taking a visa and getting the visa. So they have been behind the curtain, like a shadow, contacting with their whole world with the laptops. And this is exactly what 10 years later we are having now. In our life, we are connected with these laptops in our homes, which is in one hand fantastic, because finally we are discovering some other part of ourselves in a very official world, which is not really in the theatrical world, but there are a lot of details that are telling that we are living being also in our homes, not only on the stages, which is good. On the other side, I just want to say that these kids, most of them are not in artistry, but because we have these principles of nourishing the creativity and critical thinking and all these things that they have helped them to grow up, they are absolutely fantastic people working in the medicine, in the sciences, in the politics, in the many different parts. And they have been traveling, but they are coming back here and living here, finding their own way how to work with the problems that we are all sharing now. Dijana, do I have any time more or not? I think I'm there.
Maybe 1-2 more minutes. Mm-hmm. The final remarks, please.
Yes, how can adults provide condition of respecting the child rights? I just think that we have to ask the children, as anybody else in any part of the world, we have to talk to them and ask them what are the topics that they would like to discuss. And we have to respect them from the zero, from the very start. And we have scientific provement how the theatre and all what is going on with the human access to the being is really influencing the world through any of the individual member of our community worldwide. And I absolutely think that we have to take this time, which is not good for our usual practices in a theater. We have to think about what we are going to do, but we have to talk. And this is tremendous opportunity for us to get together. And thank you, Dijana, for this action that you have made, because I would like also to introduce you with the ASSITEJ manifest that have been raised up lately. And I think that many of the artists gathered that are in a theater, professional theater worldwide, gathering in the ASSITEJ community, which is very old network from 65, it's over for 50 years. And there are more than 100 countries involved in it through the national centers and the networks and also. But during this period, the last 6 months, most of the people have been working online. And also this online possibility is mostly, it's really kind of ridiculous, but it is actually the democratic way that everybody can have a voice. So we can use this moment to persuade the authorities. In this document, there is a lot of, from the citizen to the very top politicians, we can address to them using also, you're very welcome with this ASSITEJ manifesto, anybody who would like to. And you can find this in ASSITEJ International Network. The community who is on this, our language is like a Bosnian and Bošnjački and Croatian and Serbian. It is also translated on ASSITEJ Serbia. You can find it. And I think we should work on how to find out that our children and our work for the children and with the children really exist with a lot of understanding of the administration worldwide in many countries, because this is the way how we can really save the world. Not really, but we can make it better. And we can help many of the children around through it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dijana. It's again fascinating and very important presentation. And again, I'm finding so many similarities between presentations because
yes.
You spoke about gender equality in your work. Joanna speaks about gender equality. Frederique spoke about also the exploring the issues that deals with gender equality and so on. And I would just like to underline, actually to thank you for mentioning the reaction from artists, because I think that it is, I hope we didn't lose Dijana.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't see your picture. Anyway, maybe
I cut it down the picture, but on the mic, I will do this.
Okay, maybe you can just like deal with in the left corner you have stop video. Maybe you can just unstop it. Anyway, what I found very important in what you said to mention is the reaction of artists that actually are happening always as the first reaction after something like a crisis happen. And I think this is something that we need really to take in consideration when we are speaking with other members of the societies and communities. And then also what I found fantastic is, again, that you were speaking about the need to ask children about, what they would like to work with and how they would like to talk about their rights. So I think it's so important that it is always coming from, the topics are always coming from community, from the people we are working with, not like putting upon them. Also, thank you for the compliments. I would just like to say that this is the joint effort of the team of DACH Theatre, these connections, and so that we're all very happy to have all of you here. And now I would really like to invite Eveline and Jadranka. And they will choose what will be the order. They're going to speak about their work that they did with children in Brazil. So please.
So first of all, thanks for the invitation and their brilliant work from all of you. Our project, we started this project in 2018, actually 2 years ago. And it was coming from the City Hall with the aim that we could get closer to the students, but very, very young, actually. It's unstable. Do you hear us?
Yes, we hear you very well.
Okay, super. And then that we would go to get close to the communities, and it was a grant from the City Hall, and we built this project. The name is Território Sena, which is in any language. I think we can get it. And it was really a matter of establishing first a connection with them, because we understood when we got there, it was in some very, very dangerous and violent community, which favela, which it's known from favela, but favela is somehow pejorative, so we try not to how do you say? Use that word. So then it was a really, really a great opportunity that we managed, and we enter in this school. And first of all, to get there, we should to get over the Morro Favela. We needed to be to have the license from traffic dealers, in the sense that we could really get in. So we had to let our...
Uphill. Moro is hill.
And this was a process from 3 months that we were working with the children. And it was a big learning from the first day to the end day. It was a great experience, because when we came there, it was the public school. This was the project to happen inside the public school with children of 10 years old. And when we came there, we had 30 children. That it's like we understood that they were like a wild, in the sense that because never they had the possibility and to be heard and to build what at the end they built. That was an incredible work. And this is what Dijana, the other Dijana in the presentation was pointing out. We created many small groups during the process. So it was one dramaturgy group. And the first thing that obviously we asked them was what about they would need and have the desire to talk about. And incredibly, they could not say, because this is very different context, I think, from all, because they were coming to the process, to the workshop. Some of them, they were beaten. So in one day we understood that they could really not play because they were hurted. And it's the whole structure is that, as they don't have the basic, they didn't have so water, clean water, and to go in the school, just beside the school, we had the dealers, the traffic guys and soldiers with the guns. And so all these contexts from the beginning, what we could get from this experience, that this belonging, they never had it before. So after, I think after 1 week, we managed somehow to start communicating, because it was something that first we understood that they just needed the space, because it was not a way of communication. There was no way that we could reach them. We could not talk, because we were taking them from the room, no, and then going to the classroom and going to the playroom where we were working with them. And in this first week, we could not have, it was like any kind of a step of what we were thinking that we could do, in the sense. What does it mean?
Actually, we thought that we will now bring the theater tools to help the children to express and be creative and do wonderful children performance, and they will learn more about the artistic skills. But we understood that we are working with the basic communication skill and overcoming the violence, because the language that they were using between them was beating each other, running after each other, quarreling, and that was reflecting the community where they are living, which is a violent place, and many of these children never come out from the community, which is uphill, like most of the communities famously called favelas. So we understood that we are completely dealing with another situation. And then it needed a much longer than 1 week and weeks to begin to establish
the minimum communication.
Minimum communication, like we proposed, we said. And as
to be heard. We could not. And then when we understood where we were in the most urgent sense, it was to give them the space. And then after that, we started, and things were really transforming, because with the tools, when we managed to establish communication, then we were little by little, they were appropriating from what it was being offered there, in the sense how to manifest, how to write, and we were creating. So I think we could show a little bit the video, and we talk again.
Just 3 photos for you to see the physically community. And then I will ask Zlatko to put the video. And then also just to say information, like Eveline said, that didn't know what, in one moment early, we did one exercise asking them to imagine what they would do, a part of what they're doing in their life, which kind of profession they will do, in a way to reach some kind of role later. And absolutely almost everyone wanted to be a football player, or musician, or music, like a singer. And we were a little bit surprised how, in our point of view, was a lack of imagination, what else I could do in the life. So we had quite a time to understand that the world of these children is so overloaded with the social situation that there is a lack of space, creative space in their mind. So just to see 3 photos of the physical surrounding of the school, because in video you are not going to see this. This is like how community is. It's up hills and it's very dense. Now you can see physical and almost very tiny streets. My mistake. Do you see the photos?
No. This is not the good one. This is the small one.
We see just one, the first one.
Sorry, it's like, the bigger one. This is like a situation when police is entering to fight with the drug dealers. And then you see these girls. One has even the shirt from the school, the teenagers. It's like do you see?
No, we don't see. We don't
Ah,
see.
okay. Here?
Now we see.
Okay. So it's a regular situation. Like police is up to hill fighting with the drug traffic dealers and the gangs, etc. And then teenagers, children, it's passing a part of traffic dealers that are ruling communities. They are regularly with the guns. Then so the third one to share. Yeah, this is, for example, do you see?
Yes.
Can you see?
Yes, we see.
Okay, so it's like
Surrounding.
where they live, surrounding, like almost no streets. It's very dense and in the poor state. So Zlatko, please, if you can now put the video.
Entrevista. Qual é o seu nome?
Matheus.
Matheus.
Daniel.
Daniel. E Matheus. Take 1.
Do you hear the sound?
Ah, eu tô gostando, porque não...
No sound. No sound.
Yes, Zlatko, can you help us?
Expresso ninguém, agora com esse teatro eu tô me expressando bem. Eu gosto de dançar e cantar na frente do espelho. Fazer teatros, porque a gente nunca fez teatro aqui na escola. Aí veio essas duas moças pra cá.
She's saying that we are doing theater that we never did in life, and they never have been in theater, they never practiced, and they didn't know what is theater. Of course, video, I don't know, it's probably blocking, I don't know.
Das coisas que eu gosto, assim, que ela ensina, ela explica, ela me ensina a ter calma.
Agora caiu na telhada.
Na hora que você às vezes avisa, aumentou pra ver bem a cara dele na hora que você...
It's not, sorry, it's not
Yeah. Some technical problem, of course, we So you almost see like a slideshow, but
devido.
Qual é o seu papel?
Tubarão. Tá nadando, aí encontra um tubarão.
do you hear us?
Aí pula telhado.
We slowly came to the story through the games of imagination and storytelling that is called the Blue Fish. And the boy, his role was shark. He was like a shark. And then, but they were very estranged in the beginning. Why don't we do some really traditional famous story, or especially they could relate to TV novellas, some kind of, dramatic happening. But actually through their stories and imagination, we helped them dramaturgically to compose a story about the blue fish that was abandoned. She felt from the home, then she was abandoned. She left in the sea and longing for her parents. Obviously, a lot of issues were of themselves. And then this girl was saying, like, she thinks that everyone should do the theater, that she wanted other classes, other grades goes in theater and learn. And also other one said that we learn not to beat each other. Professor teaches not to beat. And I'm sorry for this last scene, which I wanted to tell, that the boys are saying, thank you, theater. And I refer to this, what you were saying, power of theater, because they didn't say thank you, Eveline, thank you, Jadranka, thank you, the teacher. They say thank you, theater. For them, that kind of felt like completely another being. And this is what we were mentioning in other speeches. I'm so sorry. I was hoping that this is going to be better with you. But what we try in the structure, like Frederique, you were mentioning, and maybe I think Joanna. So actually, in the beginning was a kind of workshop situation. But then, especially Vinini, she insisted that we have to create the performance, and not only create, but to teach them what is necessary to build a performance. So divided them. One was dramaturg, other was a writer, other who is actress, who is keeper of costumes. And so it was very simple in this courtyard of the school, of course, but through the almost production process, they start to feel also important, listened, responsible, and very slowly, but at the end, when it was like kind of final talk, they were so much aware and articulated that we were really in shock, because more than 2/3 of the time we were desperate. We thought we would never manage to articulate anything, but you can do some.
No, I think what was, and I'm sorry, because this video we could see before we were watching, I don't know what happened, that something, it was the internet probably, no, and, but it became some photo slide, and this is a video. But the important thing is when we were trying to make some, organize some structure with them, and what was really beautiful also, it was growing responsibility, it was growing some sense of that for them, that they could really appropriate from the things, from the material, from dress costume, from everything. So it was Isabella, one girl, that she was not getting engaged in the process. They were also the men, they were the boys, they were very much teasing her, and she was wearing lipsticks, and then it was kind of very perverse also relation between them. And when Jadranka is saying that they were beating, it was really, they were throwing the things. So we were trying to deal with this, and then she said, but I don't think we will manage to make some process, in the sense, some structure of some performance, or to get near to that. And it was good because they could really understand and to transform all that chaos that they had inside in some very creative process. And each of them, because we had 30 children from the beginning, which was a lot, and then it remains 16. And so they were like, they wrote the play, and they were acting, and they were direct. And this girl, that she could not be connected, when we understood that why she was not, we understood. And then I said, no, let's give her the camera. So we gave her the camera.
1 minute.
Okay. No, then when we gave her the camera, it was her tool, and then she started working. So little by little, for each one that was there, at the end, how they really could get close to themselves, and each one with your own one, and also between them. And yeah, this was some risk of some new possibility in their lives, no? So young, so without information, without, and then they were really like flourishing, like and we were very grateful, and it was really, really, really big learning and exchanging and a connection that we managed at the end, because in the beginning we thought that communication would not be possible to be close to them.
Thank you very much, Eveline. And Jadranka, sorry that I had to also warn you about the time, but it's so exciting and the time is flying. And so I just wanted also to give us space also at the end to maybe exchange final questions. I would like to underline what you said very beautifully about a sense of belonging of those children. And even that we are all working in so different contexts. There are so many things that are resonating in a very similar way. And as Dijana said, that after working with teenagers, that those teenagers became not in traditional sense, but in a human sense, successful people. I think also I got this impression that you provided for these children you worked with a seed of possibility to become something else, maybe. And I think this is so precious. And thank you, theater. I think this is something that will really, really stay forever in me. I think this is the new term we should all adapt. And as well, also creating space for imagination. That even I was very touched by this remark that children even didn't have the space for imagination. So very, very important and beautiful work. So thanks. So finally, we shall present the work that we are doing, and we shall try to keep it brief. Also, at this point, I would like just to say to audience that they could also, if they want, write. There is the possibility to write questions in YouTube channel. So if they want to write any questions, probably we are going to get it. So we can do it. I will very briefly speak about our latest project that we are doing in relation to the children's rights. And this is the project that we are doing with 4 other partners, actually, I mean, from 3 countries. Within the frame of the project Rights for Kids, that is supported by Creative Europe EU project. And we're doing it with theaters from Greece, Italy, and Czech Republic. And actually tomorrow, if you have time, and I know it's very challenging about the time zone, but starting 10 a.m. Belgrade time, there will be online festival of performances that were created within this project. And if anyone is interested, or also audience that is following us, go to Rights for Kids Facebook or a site, and you'll find, or the theater's Facebook or site, and you'll find about this online festival where all partners will present their work. We were invited into this project, and we found that, of course, it was something that we wanted to take part in. because of the importance of the topic as our rights for children. And to make and the result was and is our performance for your own good that we just premiered at our Festival Arts and Human Rights. And just in 2 minutes we are going to present for you a short trailer of it. But what I really wanted to say was how we started to work on this topic, because the main task for all partners was to choose the article from Convention or Declaration of Children's Rights and to create the performance based on that, with children or for children or in whatever way we wanted. And we went to work with young people without parents, without parental care, young people that many of them live on streets, are basically homeless and are in very vulnerable situations and positions. And they were gathered around one foundation, SOS Children Villages. And they were having that space of that organization as the safe space and the space where they could go and at least get a meal and do some work and so on. So we proposed to work there, to work with them. And it was I mean, you all know what am I talking about. I mean, all of you that presented the work, but when we came there and I saw those young people, in the moment I was clear that, if I try to do any kind of the pretending of like I know something, that it wouldn't work at all. Basically, what I encountered were the very, very, really clever human beings that not only that they knew what were their rights, because in my naivety I thought that now we are going to present them what are the children's rights, and they absolutely knew what were their rights. So my plan about doing the workshop had to be completely changed. But in fact, what they expressed was that their rights were violated by adults all the time. So that was, of course, the problem, not that they didn't know what were their rights. So we heard incredible stories and so on, and then we really started to from there. And I asked them what would they say to adults, and what could be the ways how to respect the rights, and so on and so on. And it was incredible lesson, really. Because then I actually realized that from all articles that we could have chosen to work with, one really spoke to me and to us, and that one was, when adults make decisions, they should think about how their decisions will affect children. All adults should do what is the best for children. And in fact, for me, that was the most important article, because it was really about, okay, like we are talking about, we should do what is the best for the children. And it started to be one of these kind of the general half-truths that we are not hearing anymore, and how to make that truth be heard, really. Again, that was basically the goal of the performance, I would say. So also I wanted to quote something that I heard from Jadranka when she was also observing rehearsals and so on. And she told me, and this is something that I quoted after, that philosopher Daisaku Ikeda said, that it is not a question of what kind of world we will leave to our children, but what kind of children we will leave for the future. So those two basically points were really something that we dealt with for our performance, taking later the structure of the fairy tales, because we wanted to explore, okay, what is there? We are doing it for young people and children. We are all raised on the fairy tales. We are speaking about the rights and so on. And then to discover that the fairy tales are generally sending terrible messages, and the cliche messages that need to be deconstructed, because this is how we grow up with. and that this is how we raise our children, with those terrible messages that basically really relate to all the topics that you were mentioning in previous presentations. So Zlatko, can you please play trailer so you could just see short trailer of the performance?
Svako mlađi od...
So we're now, yeah, here it is.
18 godina ima ova brava. Mlađi od 18 godina ima ova brava. Right. Svako dete ima pravo na život. Right. Svako dete ima pravo na zaštitu od bilo koje vrste izrabljivanja. Right.
So this was the very short overview of the whole piece, and what I wanted to say as the last remark was that while doing the piece actually, and then we presented the rehearsal to the students, my students, and then my students that were all women at that moment, they said, well, it was very interesting because through the half of the piece, we realized that in fact, it's not only about the children's rights, it's actually about the women's rights, and it's actually about the gender. And in fact, then I realized that the children's rights and the women's rights are completely connected, and that whenever we speak about the rights for the children, we're touching the rights of women and vice versa. So it was very interesting how it entered into our work without us really wanting to make this connection kind of consciously. So also I will play now the scene from the piece that relates to what I just said. And also to say that we think that also show contains kind of the scary moments, but we do think that the world could be very scary and also fun and beautiful, that we also hopefully were searching in the performance, but also that children are exposed to incredible amount of violence through media. And so you will see it. So if we can play another very short scene. This scene is the part of this project, Rebuilding Theatre Towards the New Future. And so Eveline actually directed it for the film. So it was translation to the, let's say, theater language to the film language as much as it is possible. So, and yeah. Mm-hmm. So we're, of course, technology. We're Zlatko is trying to play it, but anyway, if it or maybe we can go on, and then when you're ready, Zlatko. Yes, this is like something with internet connection. And as Ivana actually remarked, like we are speaking all the time about internet connection in our program is connections. So like, connections are working and not working. Connection is working and not working. So we'll see. Ako ne može, nema veze. Bolje da maybe I can try to share screen.
Maybe from your own share screen.
Here it is. Okay, so that was it. So this guy with the mask was Ivana, so I will invite Ivana also to say something about the work.
Hello everyone. Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you for sharing your fantastic work with us, and it is really something amazing that you do. It's really inspiring and empowering. When it comes to this performance rights for kids and the topic of it, it's huge. It's global, and in the ocean of these horrific stories and facts, actually facts that are happening all over the world, we have to choose some of them. On one side, and on the other side, we were working with fairy tales, as Dijana said and mentioned. And for me, it was very important to detach from those facts in order to be able to find kind of a fun in these characters or fairy tales. So for me, in one moment, it was pretty much scary. How can I have fun in this creation of materials during the process, while all these terrible things are going on all the time and on and on? But then making those connections between merging the scenes and the facts, that was Dijana's work. Actually, those funny moments actually built even more terrifying picture that are really posing the questions, how is this possible? And they're really raising the questions, what are we doing now? And how do we behave towards our kids everywhere in the world? So this guy, particularly the guy with the mask, he's my metaphor or patriarchal system. And during the process of creation of materials, originally I had the map of the world, that he's holding the map of the world and lighting the fire of the world. But in the show, when Dijana montaged it, those three women showed up in the scene, and the scene got completely different perspective. And at the same time, the kids are watching it all over and over and over again. So for me, this performance has an amazingly strong message. What are we presenting to our kids, and what are we allowing our kids to watch and be part of it? So it's a question for all of us, how to continue to work in this field, and how to connect and make this our work even stronger and our voice to be heard even further. So for me, it's very important to be this part of these kind of projects, as Dijana Kržanić said, that we continue and find ways to move forward. Mm-hmm. Mute.
Thank you, Ivana. The time really passed so quickly. So here we are, almost 2 hours, and I feel like it was 15 minutes. So I will just ask, you hear me, Jadranka and Eveline, because, okay. And so I will just ask the final question. We really don't have time now to discuss, but I think it was very important to do this exchange and to also see each other's works and to present it to others. So I will ask you, and I think this is the question for all of you or all of us. I mean, working in different contexts, and I would ask you, how do you keep yourself safe? And we have very difficult and dangerous places as Congo, or some countries in Africa, or some countries where, I mean, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and so on, but also or favelas in Rio and so on. But also the dangerous place could be the place where Dijana or us are working, for all of these reasons that we just mentioned. So I will just ask each of you to say very briefly, like if you could, what is your way to keep yourself safe? So maybe starting from Joanna, Frederique, Dijana, Eveline, and Jadranka, Ivana.
Yeah. It's difficult to exactly say. I think you learn from the people that you're with. You know, usually when you're in some place, the people that you're with, you know, your partners on the ground want to help you. You know, they want you to be safe. So, you know, we kind of put ourselves in the care of the people that we're working with, whether it's Myanmar or Malaysia or whatever. They kind of guide us and tell us, you know, they'll get us the right taxi, so we're not taking a taxi on random taxi on the street that might kidnap us. You know, they're really taking care of every step of the way. Don't go here, don't go there, we'll guide you. So, you know, I think that's the main thing, is just putting ourselves in the hands of our partners.
Great, thanks. So trust into community you work with.
Trusting the community.
Mm-hmm. Frederique, unmute, please.
First, I don't like very much these questions, because it seems that the problem is to be safe, or it's not our problem. The problem is the people we are working with are not safe. Of course, I need to live. I have children, they are behind me, I have to be safe. But for me, it's not the question of to be safe. I think the theater do its work by itself. The humor, and also take the people seriously, listening the people seriously, and also unseriously, because with humor you can change the mind of the serious stuff. That's my answer. I don't want to be safe.
Thank you, Frederique. I appreciate it. So deep listening, humor. Dijana.
I forgot it's down there. Can you hear me now? Yes. Well, it is absolutely different, you know, what is the safe in our circumstances, well, what do we see? Is it safe or not, our city that we are living in? This is the question as well. But what I would like to emphasize, I think the other day I have told you about the taboo bookshop, international one that we had in Belgrade. And I was completely surprised when my colleagues have kind of made a situation to save me from the particular problem that there have been when we raised up the taboo as a really taboo, that they are not to talk about. Our community is not ready to accept the problems of that taboo that it was questioned. And I was surprised. What I want to say as well is when you are working, somebody have said about, yes, Dijana, Jelena, Jadranka, I'm sorry, about the trust of the children that it looks like they don't understand. It looks like the children don't want to talk about it. Sometimes they don't want to. But suddenly, what I found, when you say at the end, I don't have any more patience, you are too loud and I have to go now because this doesn't make sense, then they will start completely differently. It was not a threat. We just said, I'm now kind of unhumiliated. You have made me not to trust in what I have done to you. Then they start to make the situation to nourish, to take a to how would I say to making you feeling safe in it, if you can understand this. But this is something that you don't want to use, never. Sometimes it's coming out when you are very honest and open, then you are going to be protected. This is the point what I want to say. And this is the art that we are working and dealing with. So if we are going deep, we don't see if it's safe or not. We don't recognize it. But then the action, the people who are feeling it, they will stand behind you. And this is absolutely cathartic. I mean, for everyone. You don't want it. You don't do that because of it, but you will get it at the end. You will find out this is how it works. That's how I believe.
Thank you. So, honesty. Thanks, Dijana.
Yeah.
Jadranka, Eveline?
Well, yes. Well, it's. I was thinking a part of some practical things. It's really to feel safe is really to go with the trust yes. in the mission, in the purity of what we intend to do. And then to be very, as you said, also honest and open. And I always feel this like this is good mission. It's we can offer. And I always find safety in this intention toward the other, whatever it is. And probably, as you said, then it's coming back. It's not something intellectual. It's not rational. But it's like focus on what is the mission of the project. Of course, if you would for the moment think, is it clever? Is it wise? Is it this? Even we had some funny situation and also the humor. I think humor is very important. We had many funny situations, like first time Eveline sat on the motorbike to go up in favela and she had umbrella. And then when you arrive, she said,
close it, umbrella.
Umbrella closed, because it's going to rain. And then we realized it was very dangerous because it looked like a gun. And then there you have all the people always watching who is coming. And then she said, wow, meu Deus do céu. Like they could have mistaken this for a gun. And so, but then it became a kind of, and humor is important.
So in this very specific situation, working with these children, actually, I was feeling feeded from what I was facing, because I was learning so much from them, but so much, even if I have been living in favela, no, Dijana, as when you came and visited me in Rio, also you understood that my apartment was just, in the beginning of, not up a hill, but in the entrance of favela. So in this sense, I was not feeling in any moment that I faced much more risk situations than I was feeling there. Of course, it's the surrounding, but I didn't feel this worried somehow. No, process was feeding so much and bringing so much that I was not thinking about that, about being safe or not.
Thank you. So faith into the process, and yeah, again, humor.
Exactly. What I wanted to say, as a performer and actress, I never think about safety. Is it safe enough? Is it okay? Even though we are performing on the streets with lots of people who might actually hurt us, or on the bus where it's common audience, common people going in, going out. So where I see my safety is in my best performing. There is my safe place. When I'm doing my best performance, when I'm focused, concentrated, and when I actually completely believe in what I'm doing, in my mission. So that's my safe place, or my safety that surrounds me and giving me the safety of being able to perform in front of anyone.
Thank you, Ivana.
And you, Dijana, where is yours?
I share, all of this that you said, and also it was a bit provoking. And I do agree with you, Frederique, that actually it is not the matter, are we safe, but that basically, people are not safe. People we are working with are not safe, and children are not safe, and so on. But I say that the trust in the process, the trust in the process, and the trust in what I do, and this is what I basically have as when we are performing outdoors and in many different situations and so on. It's really, I believe that what we do is necessary in this world, and I think this is what protects. Jadranka, you wanted to say
Is
something?
there, yes, just a brief, I could not resist not to ask Joanna and Frederique. I wanted to ask about not safety, but how you accept it officially. I know, Joanna, for years you are present in Afghanistan and in such a complex political situation. How you are viewed by the authorities, and Frederique, also in African countries you travel. Because I could imagine maybe that you can be, they can be frightened by this work, which liberates some processes.
Unmute.
Yeah, we've definitely been in situations where, we can speak to the art, speaking for ourselves, but sometimes the art itself is really extremely provocative. We're having women perform. I'm always much more concerned about the people that we're working with to a certain degree. I don't want to put them in danger. And if I can use the example of working in Myanmar, it's a really strict political situation. And you cannot speak out at all. And they have spies everywhere. They have spies like on that block, spies in that neighborhood, spies in the larger neighborhood. And they are watching everything, even the funny show with kazoos, kazoos. That's something. Well, yeah, he's saying, well, what are they talking about? What is the message here? I would be deported, but my friends who already spent 4 years in prison in Myanmar, I'm more afraid that they will go back to prison, what they are going to suffer. And in Afghanistan, we've been in suicide bomb explosions, and it's not. It is ever present in my mind that I'm in danger. I know when I feel safe when I'm in my art, but you know what? I don't always feel safe. I'm really extremely careful. And when we're riding down the street and we see a convoy of army, we turn off the street and get as far away as possible. It is dangerous for the people that we're with, and it's dangerous for us as well. It just is. And and how we received by the authorities. We try to, make friends with the authorities first. It's kind of the first step. You have to bring them in and tell them what it is that you're going to do. And I could go on at length about it, but we don't have too much time. But we do the best we can to bring the authorities along with us and show them the value of what we're doing. That's the best we can do.
The same, I have the authorization of the authorities, and I have a lot of spies behind walls watching what I'm doing, sometimes sleeping because they don't understand what I'm doing, and also reporting to the authorities what we are doing. And I say, oh, it's only theater, but it's not true. It's not only theater. But, we have to face the censorship. So I have a people assistant who guides me what to say, the limits, what we can say or not. Is it possible to say? And also I asked the actors, can we say this kind of thing? Can we speak about that? Yes or no? If it's no, perhaps sometimes it's their own censorship. Perhaps sometimes it's my own censorship. Sometimes it's a government censorship. Then we have to manage to make something also not so politically correct. Otherwise, I prefer to play football, and then to find the good balance between censorship, control, spy, government, and so on. It's a work.
Thank you. Okay, with this, I hope that we just started the connections between all of us, and also whoever was following this could find the information about all of you on our website and Facebook and so on. And so with this, I would like to say thank you so much, and also thank you, Theatre. So.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, all of you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.